Okay, chapter 2 of our book, The Snow Merchant. So the Snow Merchant has arrived at Lettie's Inn, signed in at the ledger, and made 3 pebbles into silver shillings. Chapter 2, an invention called snow. What's snow? Asked Lettie. You're my customer, said the Snow Merchant. You'll find out soon enough. There was expectation in his voice, like sparks. Lettie could tell he was excited. She could tell he was nervous. Nervous about what, she wondered. The Snow Merchant swung his suitcase up onto the table. Its legs creaked with the weight. I've never seen a suitcase made of mahogany before, said Lettie, and I see a lot of suitcases in this business. It's bolted and buckled with lead, said the Snow Merchant. Must be hard to carry, said Lettie. It keeps what's inside weighed down, he answered. Lettie frowned. She had been landlady to dozens of guests, and they always brought with them one thing: luggage. There had never been a suitcase like this before. The prize fighters from Bavolga brought their leather boxing gloves in search of new opponents. The chess players from Isa brought their black and white boards looking for new moves. The perfumers from Paral brought empty boxes to catch new smells in. Lettie even knew where the Walrus was going next with her luggage. She was going back to Lapland with the goggler to show off her new chandelier earrings which the goggler had made. But what had the Snow Merchant brought with him? What was the mystery he wanted to sell to Lettie? Suddenly the clock by the bar chimed 10, and the Snow Merchant jumped. The coldest hour of the night will come soon, he cried in panic. Lettie tore her eyes from the suitcase. Is that bad? She asked. It means there's no time. No time for what? Said the Walrus. For the creation, he said, for the creation of snow. I have to make it before I can sell it, and to make it I need a room. Lettie jangled the keys. Which would you like, sir? No, the Snow Merchant cried. There's no time to choose. He looked around. This one right here will do. And before Lettie could stop him, he strode up to the hearth to do battle with the fire. It hissed and spat at him, as if the two were old enemies. The Snow Merchant regarded it contemptuously, and then plunged a hand into his huge black coat. He rifled away, searching for something. Lettie heard the clink and rustle and clink of bottles as he went through each pocket. Here it is, he cried, withdrawing a small, crooked phial with a pipette lid. So in this case, the pipette makes the lid of the bottle, and that glass tube is down inside the bottle. He shook it in front of his eyes and watched the contents slosh inside the glass. To Lettie, it looked like liquid frost, bitter blue, cruel and cold. Oh, yes, he said, his voice soft with menace. You know this, don't you? It's ether, isn't it? And it shall be the death of you. The ladies in their armchairs whimpered, and Lettie quaked and backed away. But she realised that the Snow Merchant wasn't talking to any of them. He was talking to the fire. Feeling rather foolish, she looked again to the flames as they squirmed in the grate. The Snow Merchant unscrewed the lid, and Lettie's goosebumps rose. The ether leached the warmth from the room. Leached means it sucks something, so it sucked the warmth from the room. Quite hard to obtain, said the Snow Merchant, and quite impossible to bottle, but nevertheless, I am a genius. He squeezed the pipette, and it sucked up a drop of ether. He turned to Lettie. You might want to light a lamp. Why? She asked trembling. What does ether do? He laughed at her, at the fire. Why, it's an alchemical, of course. It's what we alchemists use to change things. Every alchemical works a different change. For instance, Mimonia, for example, changes pebbles into shillings. Gastromagus, another of my potions, changes people into their last meal. Interesting. What would you be changed into? What was the last meal you ate and you'd get changed into it? My last meal would be a croissant that I had this morning. And what does ether change? Said Lettie. Why, temperature, said the snow merchant, squeezing a drop of ether onto the fire. It snuffed out the flames in an instant, plunging everything into darkness and leaving a smell in the air like the start of a storm. The ladies shrieked in their armchairs, and the snow merchant cursed and cried out, "I told you to fetch a light!" Letty fumbled for the lamp in the kitchen and brought it out. After a while her eyes adjusted, and the snow merchant threw open the curtains to let in the cloudless night. In came the moonbeams. They pulled on the window ledges like wax. Everything now looked silver and expensive. The plates stacked by the pianola shone like shillings. "I almost prefer it like this," Letty said. "I certainly don't," said the Walrus, rising up for her armchair, her mink coat wrapped around her. She wore a powdered wig, one size too big, and it wobbled over her forehead. Her diamond earrings, shaped like chandeliers, tinkled and swung. "I am chilled to the bones," she declared. "The least I deserve is a cup of tea with cream and 3 sugars. Or make that 5 sugars. "I will have peppermint," said the gobbler, "with a splash of rum." But Letty wasn't making tea. Her head was a kettle of questions. "Do you know what snow is?" she asked the old ladies. The Walrus smiled sweetly and said, "That is not the question you should be asking." "Why?" said Letty. "And that is not the question either," said the Walrus in a higher voice. "What's the question I should be asking then?" "The question," she shrieked, "is how many times does a guest need to ask for a cup of tea before she gets one?" "Be quiet," said the snow merchant, as he put drops of ether on the pianola keys. "You are lucky I am letting you watch my alchemy at all." "Lucky?" cried the Walrus. "We are stuck on this drab little island, waiting for a ship that will take us to Lapland. That is not luck, that is torture." Letty knew this already, for it had been written in the ledger. The Walrus had been all the way to Bohemia, where the gobbler had made her special pair of chandelier earrings, and now they were on their way back to Lapland to show them off. The gobbler rubbed the rings on her hands. Letty had counted at least 7 on each of her fingers. Her fingers were alarmingly long for someone so small. "I don't know what's worse," she declared, "the boredom or the frostbite." "The wind is worst of all," sniped the Walrus. "The inn sways so much I feel quite queasy." "I am trying to freeze this room," thundered the snow merchant, slamming the pianola lid shut. "Yet you insist on filling it with hot air. Sit down." The Walrus looked at him outraged, but she did flop back into her armchair. "I want a cup of tea," she declared, waving a fat finger this way and that. "There should be tea and cake for a lady of my standing." "Madam," said the snow merchant, "if you eat much more cake, then standing really will be an issue for you." "How dare you! When we get to Lapland, I shall be the height of fashion." "But for now, madam, you are just a blob of blubber. Babbling nonsense," said the snow merchant. "So kindly shut up and let me work." Letty clapped her hand to her mouth. "Letty Peppercorn, don't you giggle." The Walrus sat numb with shock at being spoken to so rudely. The gobbler stood to her full height of 1.5 metres and fiddled with her scopical glasses so she could glare at the snow merchant more ferociously. "I am the most famous jeweller in all Bohemia," she announced in a voice full of accent and arrogance. "The lady is my customer, and I demand you apologise at once." "Why?" asked the snow merchant simply. "Because we are ladies of elegance," spluttered the gobbler. "Because we are women of stature, because—" "I beg your pardon," the snow merchant interrupted, "but how can you be a woman of stature when I mistook you earlier for a footstool? Sit down, you crinkled-up, craggy-faced crone." The two ladies seemed as lost for words as Letty. Finally, though, the Walrus recovered first from the snow merchant's astonishing attack of rudeness. Her chins were trembling with fury. "All I am asking for is a cup of tea." "My customer is too busy to make you tea," said the snow merchant. "I am?" Letty said. "I thought I was just standing here with my teeth chattering." "Then do your job," he snapped. It seemed even Letty wasn't safe from his bitter temper. Job, said Letty. What do you want me to do? Get rid of the drafts, girl. Every single breeze.